What's up guys, it's J&A Exotics and welcome back. So today I'm going to be showing you how to make a cheap, easy, affordable enclosure that you can use for many different reptiles and amphibians. So without any further ado, let's begin. Hey, before we begin, if you guys want to support the channel, make sure you smash that subscribe button. I'll also post my channel link right up here if you guys want to watch more content, and I'll post my Instagram right around here somewhere if you guys want to check that out. Thank you. Before we start, here's a list of materials you'll need for this build. Some of the materials will be determined by the substrate layer that you use. You will need a sterilite tote, some window screen, a bottle of clear silicone, an 1/8 inch drill bit, a 1-inch hole saw, a silicone gun, some rubber gloves, a drill, a tape measure, a Sharpie marker, a carpenter square, and a razor knife. Depending if you use paper towels or a substrate will determine if you need hydro balls and a substrate divider. So to start, we have our sterilite tote. I ended up using this one because of the foam edge that runs around the top of the lid. This will create a seal and hold the humidity inside of the enclosure. So to start, I use a tape measure and a Sharpie to roughly mark out the holes that I'll be drilling for ventilation. Next, I take the drill with the 1-inch hole saw bit and I begin drilling at the center of where I marked. The hole saw will most likely jerk the drill around once it makes contact with the tote, so be aware of that. Each time you drill, you will need something to clear the debris out of the hole saw. With the holes drilled, I began to clean up around the edges of the holes. I first pulled off any larger debris that came off easily. I then used a razor knife to clean around the edges. Next, I used a carpenter square to mark out the top ventilation holes. I lined up the back of the carpenter square to where the edge of the latch was on the tote. Next, I put a mark at 3 inches and marked out every inch after that. When I reached the end of the square, I did the same process on the other side. I then lined up the square with the marks we made on both sides and marked out every inch in between them. I then used an 1/8 inch drill bit to drill out all the marks. If you drill the holes with the lid on the tote, it minimizes the mess you make. Just be careful not to push down too hard or you'll crack the lid. Let the drill bit do the work. Next, I'll be cutting pieces of window screen for the vent holes we drilled. I'll be cutting 2-inch by 2-inch squares. I make a small cut at the 2-inch mark for the length of the screen. I then mark out the widths of the pieces. I mark out 2 inches and 4 inches again with a small cut. I then finish off these cuts by following the small squares of the screen. Now, it's time to silicone the screen to the enclosure. First, I put gloves on because silicone can make a mess and I want to keep it off my hands. I then run a bead of silicone around the holes we cut before. With the silicone down, I then placed a piece of screen over the holes. I push the screen down and I make sure the silicone covers all the edges. Once this is dry, the main part of your enclosure is finished and ready to be used. If you're using a paper towel substrate, you can now put your paper towels and decor in for your animal. If not, and you choose to add a drainage layer with substrate, it's time to cut the substrate divider to size. I cut some garden weed barrier for a substrate divider. I cut it slightly longer than the base of the tote. I also make cuts where the tote changes shape, so the substrate divider can match the shape of the tote. Now that that's cut, I add the drainage layer. For this, I'm using hydro balls. Once the layer of hydro balls is deep enough and even, I add the substrate divider. Now it's time for the substrate. I'll be using my own version of an ABG mix. I'll also add some recycled established substrate with a cleanup crew in it. I put the substrate around the edge of the tank first, ensuring it doesn't go down into the drainage layer. Once the substrate's in, I give the tank a good misting. I then add a layer of sphagnum moss and I spray it down again. For the final steps, I'll be adding the decor and feeding ledges for the animals that are going in here. I'm using cork crowns and fake leaves. I made 2 of these enclosures, and I'll show off the other one right now as well. One of these enclosures are going to be for an animal that we have arriving later on this week, so stay tuned if you want to see the unboxing video and see what type of animal we bought. So unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of videos out there that show people how to make tote enclosures like this, and I hope I can help someone in the future with this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.